Join the Brave Enough podcast with Julianne Williams. Renew, recreate, recover you.
Greetings, everyone. The holiday season is upon us, and no matter what you celebrate this time of year, you may have new or continued challenges while you are grieving a loved one, a pet, loss of a job, or circumstances leaving you wishing it was different. I want to talk today a little bit about grief and the holidays, because our emotions can be magnified as the season comes upon us. As always, I want to remind you that there is no right or wrong way to experience or express your grief. No two people are the same, so no two reactions to loss are the same. There is no judgment, or should be no judgment, for yourself on how you are grieving, or if you're helping someone through a grieving process about how they're grieving. We just have to meet ourselves and the people that we're loving during this time where they are. And again, there's no reason to compare the responses of others or to allow another person to dictate how you are walking down the path of grief and loss. So let's talk about the holidays. Holidays, when we are grieving, especially when grief is new, are difficult for many of us for a myriad of reasons. Again, most often after we've experienced a loss, we feel sorrow over not only our loss, but what it means to our joyous celebrations. And these are called secondary losses. Because holidays are filled with gatherings, rituals, and memories, it may be difficult to understand how you can not only survive, but find at least some enjoyment this time of year. I know after losing my husband, it took me several years to find any pleasure or interest in the holidays. It probably took 4 or 5 years before I could listen to Christmas music again. And 4 or 5 years, even though it may sound like a lot when you're grieving, really is nothing. So because of my experience, I want to share some ideas and strategies that you can use to minimize your pain and maybe even find contentment when you're in the season. So the first thing that I always remind myself, even this many years, and it's been 18 since I've lost my husband, and almost 5 since I've lost my father. But the first thing I do is I acknowledge that the holiday might be difficult. And it also might be not as difficult. But in the end, I have to allow kindness in my situation. And that's what I encourage you to do, because that's an important step in, again, allowing yourself the grace to know that however you feel is okay. So again, be kind to you. Think about talking to yourself as if you were talking to your best friend. So some ideas are, to set realistic expectations for yourself. Know that you may or may not feel like you have in the past, and you don't have to do everything that you did before this year. The other thing is you're going to have to allow yourself to feel your emotions, because we cannot heal unless we feel. So cry all those tears, express your sorrow, scream out that anger, of course, not at another person, and give yourself ample time to experience and recover from what is happening inside your mind and body. So allow yourself some buffer time that maybe in the past you would not have done. So if you're getting ready to go to an event and you want to try to do that, give yourself a little bit more time to prepare emotionally. Maybe you have to shed some tears before you put your makeup on if you're, a lady that wears makeup, or maybe you just need some time to think about and visualize what it's going to be when you get there alone, or you get there and your loved one isn't there. It's also very important to surround yourself with people you love and that love you back. That feeling of loneliness can be overwhelming. And even though we can be with people and feel alone, it's better if we are surrounding ourselves, because it gives people the opportunity to show us the love that we need. Another idea to consider is to allow or ask others to help. You don't have to take it all on. So if you normally are responsible for all of the decorating or arranging for all of the holiday festivities. You can let other people help. Now, if that makes you feel better to sort of stay in charge, I encourage you to do that. But maybe have a backup plan with your loved ones so that if it does become too much, they can help and you can feel comfortable knowing that they're ready to do so. Another thing that I try to do even now is to plan in advance and then have alternatives. So I try to look at all the invitations and, see what events that are on my calendar, and I decide what I believe I will have the emotional bandwidth to attend. And, so that's one thing. The other thing is when you're thinking about the day of the holiday and the rituals, think about who will take on the roles of our departed loved ones, such as carving the turkey or making the pies. Now, if you get to an event or if you're hosting an event and you just can't stay or you just can't fulfill a role which is new for you or something that you did in the past. So for instance, if you decide this year you're going to try to take on carving the turkey, but on that day it feels too much, just have a backup plan. Have a person ready to go. And you can even have some sort of words or code that denotes that this is just too much for you and that person should take over. So just know you don't have to push yourself. The other idea that I have around parties and invitations is, you go to the party, you can let people know that you're going to come, and you can also let your host know that you may make it 5 minutes or 5 hours. You can ask in advance for someone to be prepared to step in for you if you need to leave, so that you don't have to go tell the host, I hit where I can be in terms of my emotional temperature. It's too hot for me here. And you let somebody know, and you can just make your exit quietly without feeling like you're making a spectacle of yourself, and they'll let the host or hostess know that it was just time for you to go today. The other thing that I want to bring up, and some people will agree or disagree with me on this, but I just want to give you permission to cancel the holiday. It may be that this year, that day, it's too much. And maybe you just need to do it another day because it lowers where you are emotionally. I call it the emotional ante with my kids. I say, let's not do things that ups the emotional ante. And so if you need to cancel, if it is just too much, give yourself permission to do that. And don't worry about what other people think. This is the time for taking care of you. Now, some other ideas I have that I've tried and helped me a little bit is creating new traditions. So, for instance, after my husband passed away, we used to go to his family's on Christmas morning. So Christmas morning felt a little empty. And then I found that what filled it was for me and my children to make breakfast for my parents and just go and have that time with them after they did their Christmas stockings. So you can create new traditions. Some things you can do are lighting a candle in honor of your loved one, placing flowers on the table as a remembrance, and saying that out loud. You can set a chair and a place setting with a picture of your loved one at the table. And as a matter of fact, you can even make them a plate with their favorite food and sit it in front of them. It just is whatever makes you feel that that person is present, because they are. You can play your loved one's favorite music. You can make their favorite dish. Write an online tribute. With social media, that's easier than it's ever been. And quite frankly, everyone loves seeing pictures of your loved one just as much as you do. And then also, if it's not a loved one, but it's your pet or a job or another loss, that just something that maybe a big change, a different home, or something that is a big life change, just share stories about the past. Share stories about your pet. Share stories about the home that you lived in and how much you loved it. It's okay. talk about what happened on your job through the holidays. We have to integrate these feelings and these new experiences that we're having. And sometimes it's not living in the past, but it's remembering what it was about that experience that gave you joy. So that's some ideas I have. Now, if you know someone who is grieving, there are gestures that you can offer that will bring comfort. And I also want to encourage you to remember children during this time, because children are resilient. Sometimes we forget that they're grieving, and they also grieve differently than adults. And so it's easy to overlook their need for nurturing. So, let me give you some ideas about what you can do for those people that you want to support. So first, you can just be with the bereaved. You don't have to say or do anything. Your presence is more than enough. Time is truly the most valuable gift. The other thing is, rather than asking what they need in a general way, is being specific in how you can help. So for instance, you can call or text them and say, "What can I pick up for you at the store today?" You're really asking a presumptive question that they can answer, and they don't have to think about it too much. You can also ask, "What meal can I bring to help during the holidays?" Or, "When can I come and help wrap your gifts?" Again, we're just trying to offer help on some of those ritualistic things that are painful and overwhelming when someone that we love is in grief. The other thing is to initiate and invite the bereaved by asking them to events, or simply to coffee or lunch, or just even, "Can I come over and spend time with you?" A lot of times we wait for people to ask us for help, and I encourage those of us that are supporting those that are grieving to reach out first. And again, like I was talking about being and not doing, because we can't fix grief, a lot of times we don't know the words, and so we don't know how to reach out. But my point is, you don't have to know the words. All you have to do is offer your time and your love. The other thing you can do is talk about the bereaved person, pet, job, whatever it is, talk about the loss by name, because that's validating what that loss is. And there is nothing more magical than hearing the name of your loved one or your pet when they have left the earth. But it shows that there is meaning to their suffering, and that there was meaning to their loved one, their pet, their job, that was real. It really existed. And again, so important when you're grieving to know that there was value. So in closing, whether we're grieving or we know someone who is, placing no judgment on how the other person is contending with their sorrow is probably top and paramount. Allowing the space to acknowledge feelings is really truly key in coping with the holidays. And although it may feel like you won't make it, I promise that if you take the season moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day, you will be proud of yourself, because you will be able to walk the path. Let's face it, grief never ends. It is proof of the love. And while holidays are really hard, you are important too, and you deserve to live a life. And so I just ask that you journey with me through this process and reach out to me at www.juliannewilliams.com anytime, and I would be happy to support you.
If you are inspired by this podcast, leave a review and share it with your friends. You can always connect with Julianne Williams at juliannewilliams.com.